All right, great. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tom and Jesse Talk Movies. I'm Tom.
I'm Jesse.
And today we got a packed show for you. Today we're going to talk about the Oscar nominations for the 93rd Academy Awards ceremony, which will be on ABC Live. It's a Sunday night on April 25th. So that's always exciting. About a month or so ago, we did a whole Oscar kind of month, and we talked about Oscars in general, some of our favorite picks, and what we think Oscars will look like in times of COVID. But today we're gonna talk about the nominations because they came out last week. A little bit later on, we're going to be discussing Martin Scorsese's film After Hours. Last week we had the last episode. Yes, we discussed Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead, starring Nicolas Cage, and we figured March would be Scorsese month, and let's get into some of the lesser known Scorsese films. So a little bit later, we'll be discussing After Hours.
Sure.
If
If anyone has any questions or comments, things to say, we're going to open the floor up in the last 10 minutes. You certainly don't have to contribute. This is something that's being recorded right now, so if you don't feel comfortable contributing, it's just something we're going to put up on our YouTube afterwards. So we would love to hear from you about the nominations, about if you saw After Hours and you have anything to say about it. So again, the last 10 minutes, we're going to open it up and we'll talk to you if you have anything to say. So.
All right, awesome. So we're not going to go through every single category. We're going to talk about some of the big ones, some of our personal favorite categories. But you can access you just go to oscars.org and get into the details of every single film that has been nominated. You could always go to imdb.com, that's Internet Movie Database, where it's pretty much like the Bible of movies. You can look up everything, and you can always watch trailers on YouTube. So first off, let's just say it's been an interesting kind of we're looking at some of these films, and a lot of them, we have not seen. This is certainly a first for me, where I usually go in seeing I've seen at least maybe 3, 4, even 5 of these, but looking through this, I maybe have seen 1 or 2, and they're ones that are not even up for Best Picture, but I'll certainly let you know which ones I've seen.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of donuts on what I've seen. A lot of zeros.
So let's start. Jesse, you want to start with the Best Picture nominations?
I think that's certainly one of my favorite categories. I know probably for you is
big one.
One of the ones that you look for first. And again, the disclaimer here is that unfortunately I have yet to see any of these. I'm so used to and so reliant on going to the movies, which I know you kind of have been. And this has just been a whole adjustment, not just for me, but for everybody. So with that being said, I haven't seen any of these. There are some that I want to identify that I will see in the future. But for the nominations, we have for Best Picture, The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, which I know is one that's really getting a lot of acclaim. Mank, which was, I believe, released on Netflix. Minari, which is another one that's really getting talked about a lot. Nomadland, that's one I really want to see. You have Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7, which that one's important to me because I love Aaron Sorkin, who wrote the film.
Yes.
So that's one I also am kind of putting in my lens that I want to see. Is there any of these that stand out to you?
I definitely want to see Trial of the Chicago 7. I'm a huge Aaron Sorkin fan. I love The West Wing. So I just think he's probably one of my favorite writers. And this being on Netflix, it's very accessible.
Absolutely.
So I'm really into that. And Minari would be the other one that I'm really into. I would have to say Nomadland and The Father, kind of zero interest.
Right. I'm kind of interested in Mank, actually.
Okay.
Again, a lot of buzz around that, and it's David Fincher, so it's kind of one of those labors of love for Fincher. Wait, it is Fincher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Don't want to miss it for me.
So awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to discuss actress in a supporting role. We have Maria Bakalova for the new Borat film. Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Colman for The Father, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, and Yoon Jung for Minari. I have not seen Hillbilly Elegy. It actually got horrible reviews and was a lot of people saw it and they're like, this is awful. I know it's based off a book, but um, Glenn Close, I love Glenn
She's
Close.
a great actress.
And I actually really like Amanda Seyfried. It's nice to see her getting some recognition. And then the one that throws me is the actress from Borat. I've yet to see
That's one of those wild, like, just out of left field sort of nominations. I haven't
Crazy.
seen the film.
Yeah.
The first one is certainly funny, but it's just like, it's not one that you would normally associate the kind of stuffy Academy, for lack of a better
Yeah,
word.
and I don't want to judge too much. I mean, I am interested in seeing the film because the first film I thought was hysterical back in 2006. But it's one of those far-fetched ones, just like Melissa McCarthy for Bridesmaids.
Right.
Very strange.
Kind of scratch your head.
Yeah.
Cool. So now we're going to take a look at the actor in a supporting role. You have Sacha Baron Cohen with the trial of the Chicago 7. You have Daniel Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah. Leslie Odom Jr., One Night in Miami. Paul Raci, I hope.
I think so.
Sound of Metal. And Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah. So just from afar, you have 2 nominations in Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah.
Same film,
which is kind of a rarity, it seems.
I think Lakeith is a great actor.
I do too.
He was great in Get Out.
I think he's really good.
Yes.
So it's cool to see and it's cool to see like Sacha Baron Cohen getting some love for something that's not.
Yeah, I'd say out of all the movies like we're talking about, Chicago 7 is the one I'm most interested in.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that. I actually wish I saw it beforehand, but just the way things work.
All right, cool. I'm going to discuss original screenplay, the nominations. So there's, adapted screenplay, which is films based, taken from other material, and then original screenplay is self-explanatory. Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of Chicago 7.
There you go.
Kind of same films.
So a lot of the same names already.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess I'll end up talking about the adapted screenplay, which is, as Tom said, it's based on material.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Borat, subsequent movie film, which is just, that's kind of a mouthful to say.
Yes.
You have The Father, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, and The White Tiger.
Cool. Honestly, The White Tiger, I have no idea.
I have no idea.
It's zero.
I'm glad you said that because I was thinking that. So.
All right, cool. Actresses in a leading role. This is always one of my favorite categories.
Sure.
Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Andra Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday. Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman. Frances McDormand for Nomadland. And Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. I'm a big fan of Vanessa Kirby. I think she's great. She reminds me of like a younger Kate Blanchett.
I can see it.
Viola Davis is always excellent in everything. And Andra Day is a really talented singer. Mm-hmm. So she's apparently also a great actress. So it's kind of cool.
Carey Mulligan, I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding
that film.
Especially some people who were very critical of Carey Mulligan's casting in that, which is kind of interesting. I thought she kind of came out with a very eloquent sort of rebuttal as to
I like her.
It was basically, some of the commentary was not to get into it too much, but like she wasn't pretty enough to play.
I think that's ridiculous.
That's absolutely silly. She handled herself excellently, and she's a very pretty woman in the first place, so that's silly.
Crazy.
So as far as actor in a leading role goes, we have Riz Ahmed for The Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, and one little factoid about this, which I found interesting, I think he was the oldest Oscar nominee. Interesting. Gary Oldman for Mank, Stephen Yeun for Minari. What stands out to me is, again, I love Gary Oldman. The Professional Leon is one of my favorite.
Air Force One.
He plays like a really good villain. Obviously, I don't think he is in this. Anthony Hopkins is great. Cool to see.
It's a good list. Stephen Yeun is from Walking Dead.
Right. And obviously, this was Chadwick Boseman's last film, so I think he's probably going to get a lot of consideration. Not just for the fact that he passed, but he's a terrific actor.
He's a great actor.
Really, this is a tough list.
It is. Yeah, exactly. I wonder who they're going to get.
Yeah, I'm excited for that category.
Cool. I'm going to discuss cinematography.
Cool. like this?
The look of the film, cinematography is an important one. A lot of people don't really, it's cinematography is something I always notice in films, especially the tone of the film, the way it's shot, very important stuff. We have Sean Bobbitt for Judas and the Black Messiah, Eric Messerschmidt for Mank, Darius Volsky for News of the World, Joshua James Richards for Nomadland, and I can't do any of these names. Phaedon Papa Michael for Trial of the Chicago 7. I know News of the World has gotten a lot of buzz about the look of the film, and judging by just some of the trailers and screenshots, it seems to have that gritty look.
Right, and I think especially, I haven't seen the film, this is another one that I really penciled on my list that I do want to see. Western cinematography is like ultra important.
Super important.
You can't screw that up or you get a bad Western, so that in itself is just something that really, it looks like it's a beautifully shot film.
Yes.
Okay, do we want to do director now?
Yeah.
No, I think you're going to do director.
Nope, I haven't.
I'm doing director.
You're doing
Never mind. Okay.
Go.
So director, that's another huge category.
Yes.
This is probably one of the ones that a lot of people really solely tune in for, along with Best Actor and Actress. So we have Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round. I don't actually know what that is.
I have no idea what that is.
I'm absolutely
that's
terrible movie fan. David Fincher for Mank, he's probably one of the biggest names on this list.
Yes.
You have Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. So
I keep reading stuff about Emerald as like a favorite for this.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
Nice list.
Very nice list.
I think it's always important to have diverse nominees,
Right.
of course, and ultimately it is for who did the best, even though as subjective as that is, it's nice to see some diversity.
And I'm rooting for David Fincher because he was never nominated for Alien 3, which I think he should have been. So
love Alien 3,
let's make it up
and
to him.
he's a good director.
He's very good.
Always has a good eye.
Yes.
And then lastly, we have for visual effects, which is such a fun category.
And I know you've seen some of these movies.
I have. So Love and Monsters, The Midnight Sky, Mulan, The One and Only Ivan, and Tenet. I've seen Midnight Sky and Tenet. While I was not a fan of either film, Tenet is a gorgeous looking film, and I mean, as much as I'm not a fan of Christopher Nolan, he does do a great job of photographing his films. And the effects are there. It certainly is an original director when it comes to some of the subject matter. So it is it's certainly a nice looking film, and his effects are always great. And then Midnight Sky, visual effects, I'd be shocked if this one won. I mean, I was not crazy about the film. It was a Netflix film which came out, I think, like right before Christmas. George Clooney, and about space, and I just thought it was incredibly boring.
Did he direct that?
No. And then Love and Monsters is shocking to see on here. That's kind of like a horror, kind of action-y comedy horror film. So I'm always for bringing in horror and things like that into the Oscars. I'm certainly interested in the film, especially now getting a visual effects nomination. The One and Only Ivan I know is based off of books. And Mulan, I have not seen. Looks to be a gorgeous film. I'm really not too interested in it, but so that is visual effects, which is always fun. So I'm certainly interested. I will watch the Oscars, as I always do. I would wish, obviously the pandemic didn't happen, so we could have gone to the movies a bit, but a lot of these are available on streaming. Some of them are now on DVD, like Promising Young Woman.
News of the World recently came out.
Just came out. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun. It's always, we celebrate film here, and I like it.
I really feel negligent for having this list and not having seen many of these. So I got my homework to do. I will certainly be tuning into the award show, but that's the list for now.
All right, cool.
So next we're going to talk about After Hours.
This is a Martin Scorsese film. I believe this was 1987.
It's the 80s.
It's the 80s.
Scorsese.
It is, and one of his lesser-known films. This was a first watch for me as well as you. I think we could let's bring it up on IMDb.
1985. 1985. We're only
Okay,
2
great.
years
Only
off.
2 years
All right.
That's great. We're doing
Thank
great,
you, Peter.
Thank you. Sorry to our audience. It's been a long day.
Yes.
So After Hours, like I said, it is Martin Scorsese's film. Film follows an ordinary word processor. He has the worst night of his life after he agrees to visit a girl in Soho who he met that evening at a coffee shop. Bit of a cast here. The lead guy, Griffin Dunn. I only know him from An American Werewolf in London. Rosanna Arquette, Tommy Chong, Terry Garr, John Hurd, Captain O'Hara, Cheech Marin, and Will Patton.
Very small role.
Small role. So first watch for you. What did you think?
It's okay. So this is it's rare that I think that it's difficult for me to articulate my thoughts about a particular movie where I can, I think most of the time I can say definitively I like this movie or I didn't like this movie. But the word bizarre keeps coming up, and it's something that's probably going to continuously come up in talking to it, and talking about the film, because I haven't seen another movie quite like this. And one of the things is, especially what was kind of cool, is that we chose to go through a kind of a director's filmography, and so you and I have seen other Martin Scorsese things. We've seen Goodfellas, we've seen Casino, we've seen Wolf of Wall Street, and normally, we had a discussion about this yesterday, I know you and I. You can kind of sometimes go into a movie and maybe you don't know who the director is, but you're familiar with their work. And like for Danny Boyle, for instance, right? You could be watching a scene of a conference and it's just talking, but there's this kinetic sort of edge of your seat. It's something about his directorial style. You know it's a Danny Boyle movie.
And the same could be said for Michael Bay.
For Michael Bay, for better or for worse. You put me down in front of the screen and you didn't tell me what I was watching, I would never in a million years think this is Martin Scorsese. There's certain, the musical influence is always very big in Martin Scorsese's films, so there's that staple. And there is some sort of really sort of sped up edits, choppy, quick edits, which I've seen a little bit of. Bring Me Out the Dead, you saw a little bit of those
absolutely.
edits. As far as the movie goes, gosh, I just don't know what the heck I watched. I mean, it was just absolutely bizarre. It's not that long.
No,
it's an hour and 37 minutes about. And it's just one of these things that there's it starts off with Griffin Dunn, the protagonist. He meets a girl at a restaurant.
Yeah, randomly. He's just sitting there.
And he's interested in her. She's Rosanna Arquette. She's beautiful. He gets her phone number and he gives her a call and she goes, yeah, come on over. And he's in the city. I forget where she is, but I mean, it's a little bit of a distance away. So he's Soho, thank you. So he has to take a taxi to get there. Then this is when the craziness starts off because he gets in the cab, the driver's going 100 miles per hour, he only has a $20 bill, and that $20 bill flies out the window.
Oh, yeah.
And it's that's where everything starts, the crazy bad night starts, right? And so many of these tangential occurrences, he needs this money to do so much, and there's I don't know what to say about this movie. It's for me, there are these successively crazier characters that Griffin Dunn meets. I mean, he gets to Rosanna Arquette's apartment, and she's not there. He meets her roommate, played by Linda Fiorentino.
From Men in Black.
And she's in the midst of sculpting something. And he gets in, and she tells Griffin Dunn's character that, oh no, Rosanna Arquette had to run out to the pharmacy for some rash or something like that.
Super strange.
And
and then it kind of continues with that strangeness.
And it continues, and as the movie progresses, there's just this amplification of the craziness. Every character is successively crazier.
Right.
Almost to the point where it feels these are vignettes. It's scenes that are not so interconnected. It's he's just going from one location to the next and he's meeting one character that's crazy. The end goal is to get back home. But because he doesn't have his $20 bill, it flew out the window, he's got to kind of get creative in finding ways to. And so he meets all these eclectic characters along the way. Catherine O'Hara, the great Catherine O'Hara, who I think she was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. You see him kind of being accused of burglary in the neighborhood. It's bizarre. Bizarre. I want to know what you think.
I did not like this movie at all. And I watched it yesterday morning. I remember I came into work and I told you, and it was kind of one of those where it's like I need some time with this film because there are certain movies that are just a little out there for me that I'm like I need to process this for a little bit.
Exactly how I felt.
And ultimately, yeah, I did not like this movie. I don't think it's poorly done. It's purely a taste issue. It's certainly watchable, but this is a movie that takes place all in one night, and right from the beginning, which I was actually on board like the first 20, 25 minutes or so, and the character of Griffin Dunn, his name is Paul in the film, and it's just kind of one of those mundane slice of life films. We're cutting into his life. He works, in an office, of course, and it opens up right where he's kind of training somebody on the job, and you get the sense he's not really interested in his job, and he's watching the clock, and then you get let out of work, and then that's it. And so I thought Scorsese did a great job of just painting the picture of he's an everyday guy who's bored with his job, and he lives in Manhattan. And I think what Scorsese does really well is that Manhattan always plays a character in his films, or wherever it's like Boston and like Departed or whatever.
Very good.
But having it take place in Manhattan certainly makes sense because there's really no other place like it. I mean, I know people who grew up in the city, and it is one of those movies where it's like so much can happen because that's it. Like people are nuts there, right? And it's like so many crazy things can happen overnight there. Right. You can meet so many interesting characters. And this is obviously an extreme example, but yet totally viable in the set. Like as much as it's far-fetched as what happens to this guy, you're like, well, yeah, only in New York. Right. Because like 90% of people, everyone's crazy and talking about themselves.
There's a lot of characters.
Absolutely, there's a lot of characters to that. And that's not like a bad thing at all. I'm not insulting Manhattan when I say that. It's very interesting. But so the character of Manhattan is very important, and I think I was really on board with the setting, and it's definitely one of those movies where you kind of question the mainstream, the norm of like, this guy, Paul, is definitely bored with his life, he's lonely, and one thing leads to another. And I just didn't think it was that interesting. A lot of the characters he met, I really didn't care. I didn't want to spend the night with this guy, Paul. I really didn't care what was in store for him. Certain things are interesting, certain characters he meets. This definitely reminds me a bit of a Danny Boyle film. I feel that if the film was done now and you had Danny Boyle attached, I might be a little bit more interested in it, but overall was not a fan of it, didn't really get sucked into the characters. And the end of the film, I just feel like the movie ends and I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's just one of those like, oh, okay, that happened, right. and that's really it. Like, it's not really a memorable film. I'm trying to think of what else. Like, it started to lose me with Rosanna Arquette's character. I just found her kind of annoying. Like, I was just losing patience. Like, he's going to meet her, and then he meets her strange roommate, and it's like, he's waiting. Oh, I gotta go, to the farm. Oh, I gotta, take a shower. Actually, like, I don't have patience for these kind of people.
There's a lot of running around. There's going from point A to point B,
and stuff like that. Right, and stuff like that. Like, we don't need explosions and romance. Like, it's fine. Sometimes people doing things, just everyday things, can be fascinating. Mm-hmm. But this was just people doing things to the movie, and I did not.
There's really almost like, it's almost a surrealist aspect to
this. It certainly gets really surreal, and it's funny because when I got the movie from here at the library, and there was a patron who came in, a big film watcher, and I had it right next to the computer, and he's like, oh, that's a really interesting film. I'm like, yeah, I haven't watched it yet. And he's like, if you're from the New York area, you should see it. Mm-hmm. And I completely get and agree with why he said that, because it's like, yeah, I get it. I was watching it, and someone I lived with came in and was watching. They're like, yeah, I bet this is accurate. And it's interesting. It's certainly not a movie for everybody, but I feel that it's something similar to like a Woody Allen film. Woody Allen is mostly known for like a lot of comedies and stuff, and they always take place in Brooklyn, tree line streets, or sometimes in the city, of course. Um, but he's done some serious films, and there's almost like a commentary there on the city and the characters and how they both interact with each other. And I would have really enjoyed this more if it was a Woody Allen film. I would have liked. I like what Woody Allen has to say about Manhattan. There's kind of this self-deprecating like aspect to it, whereas Martin Scorsese paints the city as it's not inviting. I don't want to go there. It just sounds like it's a crazy place and not really an experience I want to share. And like I said, by the end of the movie, I was just like, well, that was pointless. And kind of everything goes full circle. I'll just say that in regards to the ending. They're just like, okay, whatever.
It's an exhausting movie.
It is exhausting.
It's exhausting in the sense that, again, it's a relatively short runtime.
Yes. A lot goes on.
There's a lot that goes on, and because of the introduction of so many high energy and zany characters, I mean, Paul being the only normal character per se is like it's just exhausting. All these different running from point A to point B.
I was exhausted for him.
Right. I do want to say that to your point, which I think is a very good point, you talk about the city being the character. And what I do happen to like is when I think of New York City, when you think of Manhattan, you think of sprawling and vast.
Right.
I do appreciate the fact that it takes place over the course of a night.
Yeah. No, me too.
And I appreciate that because really he takes a taxi to get to Soho, he's basically confined to very sort of close locales.
Yes.
So you're going through these like punk clubs and dive bars and it's really in relatively close proximity. I do like that you took something that's such a big, vast city and you made it kind of intimate. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It does have an indie vibe to it, and that I do appreciate. And I think New York in the 80s is always like a cool little timepiece to watch.
I mean, you talk about something that's totally different. I mean, I would encourage you to watch. Have you seen Taxi Driver?
I've never seen it all the way through.
I mean, the backdrop of New York City is such an integral role.
75.
It's in the 70s, and man, oh man, is it some ugly.
It's different, yeah.
Right, it's like
very different.
Times Square is not the tourist trap that you think of it as today.
Correct.
I mean, even in the 1990s. But not to deviate too far from my point, it's cool to see how the city is such an integral part.
Yes.
For everything that we said, and one of the reasons why I can't declare one way or the other whether I liked it or not is I was just so engrossed. While I like the character of Paul, and I think Griffin Dunn really did a good job, like you said, Linda Fiorentino and Rosanna Arquette's character really did nothing for me.
No, and it's nothing against the actors.
Absolutely not.
I just thought they were annoying characters.
Absolutely.
If I was in a room with them, I'm good with you guys, and I'd walk away.
And absolutely, and I think part of the reason is that you start off, and this is really the introduction of some of the zaniness, and the characters that you first meet are Linda Fiorentino's character and Rosanna Arquette's character. Maybe if you gave me a couple different characters, it's certainly not the actress's fault. I think they're both fine actresses. Maybe just different characters, it would have hooked me in a little bit further.
Yeah.
I felt like once we got past those two characters, and Terry Garr's character, I think, was really an interesting character.
She was fine, and I liked her quite a bit. But then, like, the stuff with, like, going back to that one guy's apartment with the key, it's just like, I don't know, I can't relate it. The main character, Paul, clearly has nothing else to do in life, and that's fine. That's part of the movie. But I don't care.
Okay, I have to say that I stuck through to the end, and because I wanted to see what the outcome was. As far as the ending goes, without revealing anything, I'm not sure how satisfied I was with it. It almost felt like more of like a Monty Python-esque sort of. I mean, some of the exaggerated comedy and characters,
and some of the editing, the cuts too. There's strange sprinkled throughout, just like. I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing hysterically at this or like, wow, that was totally off, that kind of took me out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of categorized as a black comedy.
Yeah.
In the canon of Scorsese, what I was reading, I was doing a little bit of research. This is apparently a movie that's really, really favored.
A lot of people like this.
And it might not have necessarily got all that love when it come out, but now it's really something that's garnered a lot of praise when it's been reevaluated, I guess. It was a fine movie. Probably not something that I would rewatch.
I would never watch this.
Okay.
I would never watch this.
Honesty is the best policy.
I'm very honest.
It was interesting. It was different. Never in a million years would I.
Different, and I appreciate that, and I like to branch out,
right,
of course.
Right.
So how do you know? And like the Truman Show, I never would have watched that hadn't we talked about it here. And it's cool to be like, oh, that's really cool, and that's why we do this kind of thing.
Right, and it is cool, especially going through Scorsese's kind of earlier catalog. This, like I said, this is just not something that I would picture him ever directing. So props to him. He took a risk.
Good for him. He's a great director. Either way, whether you like his stuff or not.
Absolutely.
So I think we could open up the chat to if anyone wants to discuss anything. No question is stupid.
This is being recorded, just so if you don't feel comfortable your voice being recorded, that's no problem.
Yes.
But we would like to open it up if it's anything Oscar related, if it's anything about After Hours,
Martin Scorsese, anything. I would love to hear anything. Don't feel pressured.
So yeah.
Anyone wants to say anything?
No.
No? Okay.
Cool.
All right, no problem. Thank you so much for watching. Programs at cshlibrary.org. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, anything we talked about today or in the past, we would love to hear from you. Next time we're going to be April's going to be Jennifer Connelly month, which
favorite of yours.
Always wanted to say that. One of my all-time favorite actresses. We're going to be discussing two lesser-known films of hers. One is The Rocketeer, and the other one is Dark Water, one of my personal favorite movies. I'm dying to hear what Jesse has to say about this. Lot to talk about next time.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Always appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
We look forward to it. All right.
All right. Take care.
Take care.